the camera opens on exhaustion. Not the dramatic kind that earns applause, but the quiet, invisible exhaustion that settles into your bones. The kind that wakes you up before the alarm and sends you to bed long after your ambition should have rested. We see a man named Thomas standing in a field before sunrise. His boots are already muddy, his hands are already sore, and he's convinced that suffering is proof of virtue. He believes that if he just gives more of himself, more hours, more sweat, more sacrifice, life will eventually notice and reward him. What he doesn't realize yet is that effort, when it's misdirected, can slowly become a form of self-destruction. Thomas is 32, and he works harder than anyone he knows, harder than his neighbors, harder than his friends, harder than the version of himself he was 10 years ago. He wakes while the sky is still dark, long before the world asks anything of him. And he goes to work not because he has to, but because he believes that stopping would mean failure. His farm is modest, inherited, and heavy with tradition. Every fence post, every row of soil carries the echo of his father's voice, telling him that real success is earned through pain, not through thought. Thomas absorbed that lesson so deeply that he never questioned it. To him, rest feels like a betrayal. From dawn until the sun disappears, Thomas just moves. He plants by hand, he waters by hand, he weeds by hand. His back aches constantly, his palms crack and bleed, and at night he collapses into bed with the kind of fatigue that steals even the ability to dream. His wife watches this routine unfold day after day. She sees how his eyes have dulled, how their conversations have shortened, how his life has narrowed to nothing but labor. She tries to speak to him, gently at first, then more urgently. "There has to be another way," she says, but Thomas just shakes his head. Hard work never lies. Hard work never fails. Or so he believes, but the seasons pass, and the results don't come. Despite working longer hours than anyone around him, Thomas barely breaks even. Each harvest feels like survival, not progress. Debt whispers a little louder every year, and the cruelest part isn't the physical exhaustion, it's the confusion, because Thomas did everything right according to the rules he was taught. He sacrificed comfort, health, time, and connection, and still, success remains just out of reach. Like a horizon that moves farther away, the faster he walks toward it. Just beyond his land lives another farmer. Same age, same soil, same weather. This man works fewer hours, goes home before the sun sets, reads in the evenings, and laughs with his family. And yet, his fields are fuller, healthier, more abundant. This contradiction eats at Thomas in the quiet moments he never allows himself to have. How can someone give less and receive more? The question terrifies him, because if effort isn't the answer, then everything he believes collapses. The breaking point arrives quietly, disguised as determination. A drought settles over the valley, unforgiving and slow. While others adjust their strategies, Thomas just doubles down. He wakes up even earlier, carries water even farther, and pushes through the pain with the stubborn pride of someone who believes endurance is character. Each day, his body protests more loudly, but he silences it with the same mantra: work harder, do more, don't stop. Until one morning, his legs fail him. The bucket slips from his hands. Water spills into the dry dust. Thomas falls to his knees, gasping for air, his heart racing, his vision narrowing. The field he tried so hard to save just spins around him as his body finally demands what his mind refused to give. The doctor's words are not dramatic. They are calm and final. "If you continue like this," he says, "you won't reach the next harvest. Not because of the land, but because your body will quit before it can." That night, lying awake, connected to machines instead of his soil, Thomas feels something unfamiliar and terrifying. Doubt. Not doubt about his circumstances, but doubt about his entire philosophy. For the first time in his life, he wonders if relentless effort without direction isn't strength, but blindness. His wife sits beside him and says something simple that cracks everything open. Maybe hard work isn't the problem. Maybe it's the only tool you've ever used. Days later, humbled and exhausted in a much deeper way, Thomas does something his pride once forbade. He walks across the field and knocks on his neighbor's door. They sit together, overlooking the thriving land. And Thomas asks the question he's avoided for years. Not, how do you work harder? But how do you work differently? The answer doesn't come as advice. It comes as a demonstration. The neighbor holds up two tools. One is dull, one is sharp. The dull one, he explains, demands endless force and returns very little. The sharp one, when it's maintained and respected, multiplies every swing you take. The lesson isn't about farming. It's about leverage. It's about understanding that progress isn't measured by effort alone, but by alignment, by having systems, by thinking before you act, by resting not as a weakness, but as preparation. Thomas realizes something both devastating and freeing at the same time. He has been confusing motion with progress, activity with achievement, pain with purpose. Change doesn't happen overnight. It happens quietly, strategically. Thomas begins to work less and think more. He invests his time in building systems that remove friction instead of glorifying struggle. He narrows his focus instead of scattering his energy everywhere. He rests, not because he feels lazy, but because he understands that clarity is impossible when you're exhausted. Slowly, the results begin to compound. The land responds. His body recovers. His mind sharpens, and for the first time, work feels like creation, not punishment. Months later, the harvest tells a different story, not one of suffering, but of intention. Fewer hours produce greater outcomes. Less effort yielded more progress. Thomas doesn't feel like a hero. He feels awake, and this is where the story turns toward you, because this isn't a story about farming. It's about anyone who believes that burnout is the price of success, anyone who equates exhaustion with their worth, anyone who secretly wonders why working harder and harder hasn't delivered the life they were promised. The truth is uncomfortable, but its liberating effort is essential. But strategy decides your direction. Hard work builds the road. Smart work chooses where that road leads. You are not failing because you are lazy. You might be struggling because you're tired, you're unfocused, and you're using dull tools. You are not meant to run until you break. You are meant to build leverage, clarity, and momentum. So stop swinging blindly. Pause. Sharpen the blade. Rethink your system, because the future doesn't belong to those who suffer the most. It belongs to those who learn when to push and when to think. And that choice begins right now. Thanks for watching. If this story resonated with you, consider subscribing for more videos on working smarter, not just harder. See you next time.